that there is still a serious limitation of the democratic franchise when we have the highest mass incarceration rate in the world, and an African American man has a 1 in 3 lifetime probability of incarceration, and every African American man, by the time he is, not every one, but the average African American by the time he is 23, has been arrested at least once. You don't have to be black for this to be a real problem for you. And that is a moral problem for our nation. And for those of us with a spiritual perspective, we're very clear about the energy of crucifixion versus the energy of resurrection. The energy of crucifixion is, yeah, they can kill the body. The energy of resurrection is they cannot kill the spirit, and they cannot kill the soul, and they cannot kill an idea. Therefore, it seems to me that Martin Luther King's birthday is a day for us not only to remember, but also a day for us to plan. It is a day for us to remember, but also to remember that a body having been killed is never the end of the story. God always has the final word, as long as there are people to keep alive, not just the dream. I don't think Martin Luther King just wanted us to dream. Martin Luther King told us he had a dream. He had the dream. We're supposed to be the doers. He was not just a doer, a dreamer. Martin Luther King, he was a doer. And let us not forget that. And he was not just someone, you know, there's this no pun intended, whitewashing of Martin Luther King. As this everybody just loved him, and he was all about peace, and it was all about love. Not everybody loved him, because he did not just speak of love, he told truth to power. He told truth to power, and he recognized, and he articulated, and he inspired people to act on the fact that there were systemic patterns of injustice in this country. And that as long as those patterns of systematic and systemic injustice were not met with groups of Americans who were absolutely intent on interrupting the patterns which kept those forces in place, then America was not living up to its creed. And that is as true and as important today as it was in the 1960s. And I want to tell you something else, and it's not particularly good news. In many ways, things are worse. In many ways, things are worse. Because it's not now that the democratic franchise has been, you know, we had slavery, and then we abolished slavery. Good. Women didn't have rights, and then we had women's suffrage. Good. There was the segregation of the American South, and then there was desegregation of the civil rights movement. Good. There was not marriage equality for gay people, and now that is starting, that ball is rolling. Good. However, at the same time, ladies and gentlemen, we are living at a time of the narrowing of the democratic franchise for everyone. Take your pick. It could be the NSA spying. It could be the National Defense Authorization Act, which now gives our government the legal authority to indefinitely detain an American citizen. It could be the Trans-Pacific Partnership. It could be any number of things. It could be the fact that 1 in 5 American children live in poverty, and we have, among all advanced nations of the world, the second highest child poverty rate in the world. 1 in 5 American children are food insecure. They don't say hungry now. Why? Because a lot of these obese children are actually malnourished. We are corrupting our food supply with GMOs, herbicides, pesticides, and every other kind of chemical additives, and as I mentioned before, we have the highest mass incarceration rate in the world. Why is that? It's not a mystery, ladies and gentlemen. There has been a systemic effort, a systematic pattern in our country since Martin Luther King died, to siphon off the major material resources of our country into the hands of a very few, so that at this point we're basically making a mockery of the Gettysburg Address. Because when Abraham Lincoln articulated that those men had died on that battlefield, those tens of thousands of men who died at Gettysburg, died so that a government of the people, by the people, and for the people would not perish from the earth. It's perishing right now. It's perishing in front of our eyes, because we are already transitioning, and some would say have already become, a government of a few of the people, by a few of the people, and for a few of the people. Now, the way I look at it is, if we're going to break that basic social contract between a government and its people, which is to be a democratic one, in which we serve the basic bottom line, the welfare of the American people, rather than the economic good of a very few of us, if we're going to change that basic social pattern, could we at least please have a conversation about that? And what I know about this part of the country is we talk. And when we have a conversation, within 5 years, it's a conversation everywhere else as well. And that's why I'm running for Congress, because I